I am the president of Eden Counseling Center and Eden Family Institute, and I'm just real delighted that you're all here to join us today. Let me just take a moment and ask Mirabella, does it appear to be recording?
Yes, sir.
Great, thanks so much. So our intention is to create these trainings, post them on YouTube in video form so that you can go back and review or share them with others. We are making this available to the world at no cost, and this is funded by Eden Counseling Center and Consulting, and is really a part of our nonprofit Eden Leaders Institute. And so we will proceed. I intend to take you through this as if I was taking a couple through it. Today we have some volunteers who are going to help us. This lecture is a little different than last, whereas I was doing a lot of speaking. I will be doing less speaking. We'll be doing some observing today. As soon as a couple comes into my office for the second session, I typically ask how are they doing, but I let them know that I do have an agenda. I bring a lot of structure to the first couple of sessions, and I let them know that right from the beginning. I have a plan for today, but let's take a few minutes to tell me how you've been. And in particular, I'd like to know what you've been doing with your homework. And for those of you that attended our last meeting, I suggested that you try doing these things because leadership occurs only through authenticity. One of the phrases I use for myself is I would never require something of someone else that I wouldn't do or haven't done or do. So everything that I teach about marriage is part of my own marriage and has developed out of our walk as mental health professionals and as a married couple. So I would ask them, as I will ask you, did you practice timeouts when the anger expression exceeded the scale of 5? And I'm going to run through that quickly with you just to review. And then we will discuss that. And so what typically happens after the first session is they fall into practice and then out of practice and then maybe back into practice. So they may say, yeah, we went, right after our meeting, we were trying this and we were really good. Then we kind of forgot about it and things got a little rough. And that may be the place where they walk in today, in which case I simply reinforce, I would really like you to reemploy this, what seem to be the barriers, we'll process that, and we'll try to get them back to where they are limiting the negativity. That's really important. And then once we've discussed that a bit, I'll ask, did you bring your romance builders lists with you? Their assignment had been to create a list of 12 positive actions that could be expressed as gifts to the other party, and then we go over them. And so we go over them, and I judge them as being, are they positive? And the example I give the previous session is, for example, I feel cared about when you stop nagging me. That doesn't go on this list. It's got to be positive. It's got to be a romance-based kind of thing. And so we go through their list, and I simply give them the task of I want you to do 2 a day for the rest of your life. So we re-review the previous homework, which continues to the next week. I want you to continue limiting the negativity. I want you to do romance builders 2 a day for the rest of your life. I will ask, did they get into any landmines, but I will remind them that we're not going to get into that yet. We want to just keep knowing where they're at and staying away from them. So I just acknowledge they exist, that they may have gotten into a really difficult situation, but we will deal with that later. I always ask if they have prayed daily for each other. The 2-word prayer is, bless my spouse. The 6-word prayer is, show me how to bless my spouse. And very often, if people are praying daily for each other, they are making progress. It helps a lot. So just for the sake of your review, and if they needed a review, we would review these things that were from the homework from last session. And so we would review the points of the anger expression scale. You can see it goes starting at 10, murder, down through yelling. And these are the 5 points that we want them to take a timeout immediately, as if any of these things begin erupting between the 2 of them. 5 and below is acceptable. And so we're really at the beginning just wanting them to identify when they get to a 6, 7, or an 8, and they call it timeout. So I might review that. I might review what a landmine is and why we are putting off discussing them. We don't just want them blowing up. And we will have reviewed the romance builders, which I just wanted you to have a visual here as we were talking about that a couple of minutes ago. And what I do with it after they have shared it, I'm making little notes. So what I'm physically doing while they're he's holding his list, she's holding her list. He reads one, I write it down on my pad of paper. She reads one, I write it down on my pad of paper, and I'm marking them as to whether they are touch, time, gifts, words of affirmation, of deeds of service. So I'm putting T-O, T-I, G, W, D. And I just then tally up my judgment. It's just quick and dirty. My judgment as to what their primary language is, and I may mention that. And they're likely to be different, so I may reinforce now. I might say to him, you're going to have to really work at extending yourself in terms of meaningful time, because that's her most valuable language. And I turn to her and say, you're going to have to use more words. He needs more encouragement, more affirmation. So we are just trying to gently shape how they express love to each other so it's more efficient, more effective, meaningful to both of them. So these points of review and the prayer, I will review that so that every session begins by reflecting back, making sure that they get it. And depending on the couple, it may require a little bit of review, a little bit of reteaching, some more examples, some more role plays, because I want to make sure that they're learning these basic techniques to be building the positive components of their relationship. So here's session 2. And what I'm teaching today and what I'm teaching next month can be reversed, but I'm teaching it in the way that I prefer to do it, which allows me to control the nature of the interaction through the entire session. So I prefer when they get at least 2 sessions where I am very directive, I'm very instructive, I'm encouraging, I'm asking questions, they're engaged and involved, but I'm really managing how this goes. And what I find is that it helps them practice more effectively during the session. They're less able to practice their bad habits. You know, I referenced last training that I really want them to have a world-class marriage. So you have to practice things the right way. You have to know how to do it, and you have to practice it well. And when I pretty much direct the conversation for a couple of sessions, they're experiencing this. They're not lapsing into, you know, a lot of negativity or a lot of accusation or a lot of misunderstanding. They're really handling it well. So that's what we work with. I have 2 volunteers in Brașov, Romania, and Mirabella and Florian are good friends of mine. Mirabella helps organize this. She's my communication specialist, and I've been in their church a number of times. They've been in my home. We have a very close relationship, and they have volunteered to demonstrate what I'm going to teach right now. And so in a few minutes, we'll see if we can get everybody on the screen, and we'll share this together. I'm also going to put a piece of paper that I will write on instead of the slide, so I'll have to juggle a few things when it's time for the demonstration. So that'll be in just a few minutes. Just a brief introduction, and this is how I do it in session. I just talk a little bit, and then we do it. And that's how this session goes. There's a lot more. This structured exercise makes up most of the second session. And so I introduce that when 2 calm, rational adult humans can approach a problem, stay in their calm, rational adult minds, they have a real good probability of moving it forward in some way, actually solving it or coming to some understanding of what they need to do to solve it. And the concept of brainstorm is used, it's a word that actually is used in English to gather a group of people together and work on a problem. So it's a term that's common in English, and I don't know what term might work in Romanian, but we, you know, if I talk about a brainstorm, people have some conceptualization of what it might look like. And then we present that the truth that if we can work on solving some problems, we're going to have less conflict. And so then I kind of review the whole process. So we reduce the negativity, we boost the positive. Now we solve problems, and next session we're really going to get into communication. And I may review the rationale for that just so they're with me. They're willing to move with this whole concept. So this is an emotionless experience, relatively speaking. So if anger erupts or a strong sense of conflict, we take a time out. We stop, calm ourselves down and regroup. And I take a couple minutes to emphasize, if you do this exactly the way we do it today, this will work. If you move away from the rules that I'm laying out, then you're on your own. I don't know what you're going to get. But I speak with a high level of confidence because my experience is that a couple can always come up with something constructive to work together toward if they follow the rules. The problem is that people get away from problem solving and they get into arguing, or they get into old hurtful things, and they stir things up and they get distracted from their ability to move towards solution. And so you'll see as we present these instructions how we try to prevent that, how we try to keep things moving really constructively forward. So the first thing we have to do is define the problem. This whole process is designed to only focus on one thing and to not go off on all kinds of distracted, maybe connected, maybe disconnected, emotional kinds of things. So we define a problem in neutral terms, meaning we're not accusatory, we're not judgmental, we're not putting anybody down in the way we define it. So it's rarely, well, the problem is you always do this or you never do that. So we're forced to think in terms of we. What is our problem that we are going to work together to solve? So we are having trouble getting little Johnny to do his homework. We are having difficulty determining how to best manage our finances. We stay away from accusation, which allows everybody to join in. So we define the problem, then we brainstorm, which during this time I just remain silent and record the things that they suggest. I may seek clarification if I don't understand it, or we may reach a point where I join them in brainstorming if they're having difficulty coming up with solutions. But I try to leave it up to them. I really want them to have the experience of putting forward ideas. I tell them the ideas don't have to be good because we're going to vote some off. In fact, I like some silliness. I like humor. I like things that obviously are going to be written off because it shows creativity. A brainstorming experience is supposed to be a creative experience. We come up with creative solutions. That's why we're doing this together. So we write down at least 12 positive ideas, and the emphasis here is that's all we say to each other. We don't even react with, oh, that's a good idea, I like that, or I don't think we can do that. All that goes in the voting. I really am minimizing conversation in order to avoid all the negative stuff that they've dealt with already about this topic. So we get at least 12 ideas, then we vote, and again, we do not discuss the items. This is a very smooth, fast process if people stick with it. So after they've got 12 items, I will reread the item, and they will say good or bad. If it's, and I either, depending on how I'm doing it, I either just draw a line through it if it's bad, or if I'm using digital, I'll just put a G next to it so that I can see which are the good ideas, mutually agreed upon, and which are the bad ideas that, and there's no point us talking about that which we've already argued about. That's the point of this. We simply start off with a positive place to start. And once we have eliminated all the bads, we now are looking simply at a list where we both are in agreement that there's some potential here. We then simply choose the place to start. So that's may require a little discussion as people explain why they choose this one, but when I'm guiding this, I still try to keep the discussion pretty lean. Once they've chosen where to start, now we talk about it, and we focus mainly on how will we implement it, who will do what, when, and I always throw in, so how will we assess whether this has been helpful? Because if it isn't, we need to do another brainstorm. We have other options. Almost always, they produce a list with options, and they choose the place to start, which may combine several. And so most of the time, when they implement what they have planned, the feedback I get is it helped. That's what we want. I say you maybe not be able to eliminate a problem, but if two people can work together, they have a sense of teamwork rather than opposing teams. They're on the same team, and they get a sense of success that comes out of having been able to do this together. So I want Mirabelle and Florian to get ready to join me because that's what we're going to do. We're going to do these steps, but what I'm going to do as we get ready to do this, if you'll give me just a minute, I am going to actually pull up a new Word document that is not what you're looking at there. That's a presentation that I gave recently, and I can't think because I'm doing too much. It's a simple task. I was doing a personality profile training with an organization in town. That's what popped up on my screen. Here we go. So what I'm going to do, so if Mirabelle and Florian, if you will make your mics live and join me, we are going to work together by first defining a problem, and I'm inviting them to be transparent with us, to choose something that has some kind of relevance to life. And so are your mics live?
Yes, we're on.
Okay.
Great. And did you open up your webcam? Oh, you did. There you go. I can't see you because I'm looking at the screen. So these are two wonderful friends. I view them as kind of not children, but I have a kind of a fatherly feel for them. I want to see them grow and develop, and we're having a great time together, and I appreciate them very much willing to do this. So what I would like the two of you to do is to give me the neutral definition of the problem that we will approach in this brainstorm, please.
You go.
So the problem appears to be that we tend to double book ourselves, and we end up having conflicts because of our scheduling.
Okay, this is a real common reality for many, many people. Does it end up with conflicts between the two of you, or more with the other parties you have scheduled?
No,
So it depends whose fault it is.
Okay.
especially when I invite people over and the house is not clean.
Okay. All right. So that's a specific example. Then. Okay. So we're going to try to stay real clean with this approach. So I'm going to ask either of you to simply give me a possible something that would help this move forward. Doesn't have to be great. Doesn't have to be expansive. Just what comes to mind that might help the situation a little bit.
Use a common calendar.
And so we're just going to move through this quickly. We're not looking for discussion or comment.
Mm.
So I've recorded the first one. What's another idea?
Put everything in the calendar, because there's no point in having a calendar.
Okay. What else?
Ask before setting an appointment. Ask the other one.
You're doing great.
Before bringing people home.
What's another?
Can't think of another one.
So I wouldn't do this in a normal session. I would do this later, but I think we'll see as I do how some of the conflicts shape up as they address this in this fashion. And do you have another idea?
Nope, I'm out.
Communicate better.
Let me suggest something. Go ahead.
Communicate better.
Good.
That's part of asking and stuff, but
Good. Other thoughts?
check the calendar before setting an appointment.
Yeah, I think you're doing a good job here of breaking down some steps that would be useful. What else comes to mind?
Keep the date night sacred.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me comment. You're opening up a window, so when do we change the calendar? Why don't you address that? Think about that.
Discuss the following day,
Yes.
like the night before. Discuss the day.
And what would the rules be about? We've got something in the calendar, but we're seeing we want to change it.
We
Throw
both
something out of our head.
agree on making changes to the calendar.
I couldn't hear the first part. There was a beep.
I said we should both agree on changes to the calendar, like don't make changes to the calendar without both agreeing. Yeah, do that.
Any other thoughts? You're doing great. We have 9.
So we need 2 more?
3 more.
3 more.
3 more.
3 more, okay.
Help from the public.
Yeah, you seek help.
Call a friend.
Oh, call a friend. Okay, we can do that. Okay, you all have a chat. So if you have an idea, and this is the beauty of a group. If you have an idea that might help with calendar, with scheduling, go ahead and chat it to us, and we can see that. So I'll be watching to see if I can see if something shows up. I don't know if this will be helpful or not, which is okay in a brainstorm, but you might address something that has to do with time frame. How far ahead should the calendar be constructed?
So work with the calendar, 90, 60, 30 days out. That's what Bob taught us.
All right. So we won't discuss that now, but we'll just put it down here. There's a method there, right?
Yeah.
You're sharing with us. Okay. And
That works
any of
for
our
me.
other listeners, we've got 4 other people out there listening. If you have an idea, it doesn't have to be a good idea. It could be a silly idea. Feel free to share it with us, and we'll put it up.
Seek professional help.
What happens with emergencies?
Okay, so
Somebody
Stefana asked the question: what happens with emergencies? So address that. How do you want to handle things that one of you perceives as critical?
Well, that's kind of what causes conflicts. And why things get mixed up because emergencies come up.
Well, I'm just gonna jot these down.
The other one?
You may need a whole brainstorm on emergencies.
Yeah.
Happens sometimes. Any other thoughts about emergent kinds of things? How you would want to manage it?
Are you asking me or everyone else?
Well, the 2 of you or anybody else.
Okay.
Well, we should still communicate, when emergencies show up too.
Well, state the emergency. Why is it an emergency? Why does it need to come before other engagements? Why is it so important? And we probably need to be understanding of each other,
Probably.
because some things may be important to me that are not important to her.
That's a deep one. Actually. Yeah, I think we have to work to understand sometimes. Yeah. Okay, we have 15. That's good. Appreciate the help from others. We got 2 from the audience, and we've generated 15. This has gone typically the way it goes. We just spent, I don't know, 7, 8 minutes on this, and we've generated these items. This whole exercise usually takes 20 minutes, and out of a 45-minute session while I'm doing this. It may take you longer if you're practicing this with yourselves or with other people. And I would always recommend that you first practice with yourself before doing this. So now we move into voting. And what I'm simply going to do is I will go up and figure out some way to. I may just delete it. So you each get just say good or bad. Florian, is use a common calendar a good or a bad idea?
It's
Good.
good.
Is putting everything in the calendar a good or a bad idea?
It's good.
That's before setting an appointment. Good or bad?
It's
Good.
good.
We've got
That's
this
before
lady.
bringing people home.
Yeah.
I recommend that. Good.
Communicate better.
Good.
Check your calendar before setting an appointment.
It's good.
Good.
Keep the date night secret.
That's good.
You agree, Mirabella?
Yes, yes, yes.
discuss the following day, the night before, so you'd have a routine of reviewing the calendar each for the next day.
Yeah.
Good or bad?
It's good if we do it, but
Yeah. It can be very
All
good.
right. We both should agree on changes to the calendar. No changes without communication and agreement.
It's good.
good.
So we'll just vote on this now. I think we'll want to come back and talk about it. 90, 60, 30 days out.
Okay.
Does
So
that seem good as he explained that to you?
yes, but
Yes. Yeah.
Get professional help.
no, I disagree.
So that's the more humorous one. So we just delete that. Put the other one first.
It's good.
Work out emergencies.
Good.
Yeah.
That's sort of a general theme.
Yeah.
The more specific is state why something is an emergency. Why does it need to be prioritized?
Yes.
And then this is a general one. Seek understanding, work to understand each other as part of that process.
Yes.
So we have 14 items. We only eliminated one off the list, so we have lots of items. And what you end up here always is you see a list that almost anybody would say, oh yeah, anyone would say these are good ideas. But if we're looking toward change, we have to decide where we're going to start. So look over those items, and each of you can just get an opinion as to where you think you should start, or you might combine, you might look at that and say, well, these three kind of go together. Let's mix these together, and that's where we'll start. Oops, I did it again. Here we go. That's where we'll start. Where do you think we should start?
Communicate better. It goes with the ask before.
Which ones?
3, 4, and 5. They're kind of the same. It comes with communication, kind of.
But I think we should start with putting everything in the calendar.
Yeah.
Start with 2.
Well, 1 and 2, have a common calendar.
And put everything in it.
Okay. So we have 2 suggestions for starting.
I think 1 and 2 go together.
Yeah, well, I've changed order now. So 1 and 2 are now down, now 4 and 5. But let me just get rid of that. Will help that visually. All right, so those were the groupings. To ask before setting an appointment, ask before bringing people home, communicate better, and then use a common calendar, put everything on the calendar. So where now that you're looking at just these 5, where do you think the starting point is?
Using the common calendar, yeah.
Okay, so you're in agreement that we start there.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. We have moved through, just to review, we've moved through the statement of the problem, we've brainstormed, we have voted, and we have chosen a common starting point, and now we can discuss how to implement, or what do we do. So just go ahead and talk to each other and us at the same time. You might talk about what kind of calendar, if you already have ideas, just see what kind of brief conversation occurs now that you're looking at just these items.
Well, I think we can use the Google Calendar, which is the most, both of us.
If you could speak a little louder.
Okay, so we can use the Google Calendar, which is the one that we have, and
Our phone,
Yeah.
our phone calendar.
so I think that that can be very helpful. And
We can synchronize it on
Yeah.
both of our phones so that it shows up.
Please spell synchronize. That's not it, right? Oh, wait, fix it. Synchronize our phones so that you are both looking at the same calendars, right? Okay, any other thoughts about how to get this to work?
Well, the reality is that you can't always ask, because if you're in a meeting with someone and they want to set the next meeting, then I can't, call and ask you. But if we look at the calendar, then, we can see what's booked and what's not. So.
Right. At the starting point here, the ones we've chosen don't really have to do with asking. That does reflect up here.
Yeah.
So the starting point is simply, I think, getting these calendars in place. The 2 points are get the calendar in place and put everything in it.
So
So it's
anything that we do, we should have in the calendar. If it's a meeting, if it's, you know, time to, if we set aside time to study, it should be in the calendar so we don't bother each other. Then if it's time to, if we have meetings together, if we have people over, everything should be in the calendar.
okay. So we've chosen the calendars. In fact, they're already in your devices, right?
Yes,
Google calendars already exist. Do you know how to sync them?
yes.
Okay, so you can get that done, and then you get everything in. Do you need a meeting or anything to begin structuring this together? Do you need to sit down and kind of look at what already exists and to get the feel for putting it all in, or can you just pretty much on your own just put things in?
Yeah, so we probably need to sit down and kind of look at our weeks and see what recurring meetings we have, you know, meetings that we have at the church, things like that, and have those put in, and then kind of see, you know, what and how we put things in the calendar, maybe have a language of how we, you know, mark things in the calendar, color code things, because I like color.
Okay, so now you're getting specific. Color code, uh, types of entries, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's too much
Okay, good.
detail. Too much detail for me.
All right. Well, this will get you going, though. I think if you sit down and have a meeting, you sync your phones, look at what you've already got, practice putting this together, you will have started. That's the beginning, getting this thing down. Now, there is more discussion to have to make this work. So this is the start, um, and that looks good to me. Um, then we look at when will we do this? When will you have this meeting?
Uh,
Tomorrow,
All right.
as soon as possible, right?
yes,
If you did it tomorrow, what time would you do it?
8:30.
No, not 8:30, maybe 9:30. I'm
AM or PM?
AM.
Uh,
Right. Okay, I see. You didn't want to get up so early. So
Like
9:30 a.m.
that early, but I
September
like
18th.
meetings that early.
And how long is it going to last?
30 minutes.
Probably, if we're efficient.
Could it go 45 if you had to?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So schedule into 10:15. If you get done sooner, better. Now, I'm going to make a suggestion. I'm going to suggest you put that meeting in your phones right now.
Okay.
That you actually pull your phones out and you put in the meeting tomorrow with the big alarm. Uh, and you will have set the time, you're in agreement on the time, you're in agreement on what to do, and where will this happen?
At the office.
You should take me out for coffee.
Are you in agreement, Mirabella?
I
At
think
the
you
office?
should take me to Starbucks.
What do you think, Florian?
Uh, Not a fan of Starbucks, but I can do it.
So the Starbucks is open?
Yes.
Yes, it opened
Okay.
today.
Yes. So you're giving Mirabella the gift of going to Starbucks, right, Florian?
Yes. Yes.
She wants to do this, so you're giving her a gift by meeting at Starbucks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He
So you
gets
need to say
brownie
thank
points.
you. Thank you for the gift, Mirabella. You need to
Thank
tell him to
you. Yes.
thank him for the gift. And this is tying into romance builders. I think, Florian, if you choose to offer to take her to Starbucks, you get points, right, Mirabella?
I
Yes.
should. I should.
That's sort of a standing thing you could do. I just happen to know you two. Okay. So you'll go to Starbucks and you'll spend a half hour, maybe 40 minutes, and you will have started. That's great. And then what you might do, if this goes quickly, I'm intentionally showing you the other items because they all, I think, tie in, but we have to start someplace. So I think, marking date night and communicating and tell us briefly, we have time. Tell us what 90, 60, 30 days out means.
It basically means looking at our calendar 90 days in advance, 60 days in advance, and 30 days in advance. At 90 days out, we basically want to know, kind of what events are coming up, um, put them in the calendar, make sure we have them in there. If it's conferences, if it's traveling, if it's, major events. And 60 days out, we're already and we're, planning the event. If it's conferences or meetings or whatever major thing it is, 60 days out we already have tasks, who's involved, who's part of it, um, and we start making tasks and assigning them to people. And 30 days out we should already know exactly who's doing what. Every task should be assigned to someone, everything should have a name and somebody taking care of it, and that, um, will help us avoid things like planning our conference in a month, which we have been
I
known
like
to
it.
do before. Yeah.
I like it. So the 90 days is kind of just this is on the horizon,
Big
and
picture.
we are simply talking about why it's important. And then the 60 days we're talking about how to implement, and
Yeah.
30 days we're just really reinforcing and keeping track to make sure everything's on target.
You know,
Am I understanding?
days that we're already doing things for it,
Yeah,
like physically
I
doing.
like it. I like it. So you may wish after this meeting to plan another meeting where you talk more about maybe some of these details, like how do we implement the 90, 60, 30, or what do we need to do with our communication, or that sort of thing.
We'll have a
Um,
strategy meeting where we've talked about this before. This is actually something that we've been working on recently. So in our, so
we
yeah.
did get
And
professional
we
help.
did get professional help.
oh, that's yeah. So this is. Do you mind if we tell them about this?
No,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
fine.
So I have a friend, Bob Groves, who's on my team. He's on my both my intensive team and my coaching team. And he has been communicating with Mirabel and Florian, and I guess this has been one of the main topics, right? Time and time management and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So Bob is a John Maxwell coach. He's a professional, and he's been. So you did hire a professional. That's true.
Yeah.
So now we look at, okay, if we start tomorrow, when do we need to get together and judge how well we're doing so that this just doesn't fade away? A week, 10 days? What kind of interval do you think you need to have before you have the next meeting to take a look at it?
Probably a week.
A week.
Okay. And where will that be?
Starbucks again, I guess. Win more points.
Says lovingly. um, um, could you do it 7 days the same time, roughly?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be during conference time, so
That won't work then, right?
I leave the country, so it has to be somewhere then.
Um, you, you, you come and see us on the 29th, right? 28th. You
I
depart on
leave,
the 28th.
yes.
Yeah. So give some thought. When could this be?
Um,
You're out of town Monday and Tuesday. We have guests coming on Wednesday, and then we have conference
yeah, we
until
can be
Saturday.
Friday morning.
Probably Sunday night after the conference is, all done, and I'm getting ready to leave the country anyway. So
So this is the 27th,
yes, at night.
6,
like 9 o'clock.
Probably not gonna be at Starbucks then.
6 p.m. Oops, sorry, my phone.
So this will be at home.
Yeah.
10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, something like that.
8, not, yeah, probably.
8 o'clock. Okay. So I would suggest you put this in your phone now too, so that you already have a reminder uh, that this is upcoming. The difficulty that everybody has is that we're talking about developing new habits, whatever the problem is. We're talking about making a change, and we really have to think through, and the counselor has to guide people through to create as a positively perfect system as possible that they will do it. So multiple reminders. Um, I would encourage people to set their phones so they're getting at least a 24-hour notice for each of these meetings, and they have the freedom to remind each other without taking offense. So they can gently say, "Remember, we have a meeting tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it." Try to keep things positive. I coach them in how to continue a positive tone. Um, So Mirabelle and Florian, how did you feel to go through this exercise?
Good.
Good.
Anxious, provoking? Was it calm? Was it how did you feel?
It was calm. It was good. It challenged us to think of just putting things into perspective, and
It felt like teamwork, so
yeah,
it was good.
Good. Yeah, I think it went fine. This is a very, in terms of tone or mood, very typical path that we've taken. So I thank you for your volunteerism. Any other thoughts or comments you want to make before we kind of move on?
No,
no, it's good.
Observations of doing it.
It's good.
And do you feel that if you developed this method of approaching problems, it would apply to other areas of life as well?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think so. I think it went better now because this is a subject we've already been discussing for a few days, and we've already, in a. I guess if you would have been there the first time we talked about it with Bob, it probably wouldn't have been so, calm, and our ideas weren't all that, all positive. um, so it helped that this is an issue that we had already discussed, and it's something real that we're dealing with. And for somebody else in a different context, it may be a little different. You may have more that you disagree on to, vote off the list, but the end result should be the same. You do find those things that you both agree on, and try to work on them on something that you can work together as a team and leave the differences aside.
I want to point out that the questions I've been asking Mirabelle and Florian are the same questions I ask my clients.
Mhm.
I want them to talk about how they experience this, and sometimes they'll contrast it to other discussions they've had that were more negative. What I'm trying to do is really get them to pay attention to the positive value of doing this so they'll be motivated to continue. And their homework assignment will be to follow up with the plans from this brainstorm, and before we have another meeting, practice again. And most people are fairly motivated to try again. They've had a good experience in the office. They can see some potential with working with not just the events that they've worked on, but the process, the system of brainstorming. And so most people are willing to try another one, which we will process briefly in the next section. Each time I teach something, I want people to practice. I want people to have the experience of in the office of doing it. I want them to practice very soon at home and to be able to process that experience next time they come. So we really keep some positive momentum going through this whole thing. So Mirabelle and Florian, you can turn your cameras off now. That'll be fine. What did I just? I just messed everything up. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for doing that. Uh, as we're doing this, we have another, about 17 minutes, and I'm going to present one other concept, and then we'll be open for comments or questions. And the comments or questions may pertain to this or the previous session that we talked about. So if you have a question that's coming to mind and you want to just chat it to us, we'll be able to field it and move forward fairly smoothly. So I just want to invite you to, if you have any question about what we've done today, if you have any question about the anger expression scale, timeouts, romance builders, the 2- and 6-word prayer, we're intentionally teaching specific activities that have a name and an identity and a duration. And I want to be sure you understand how to apply these things. And I want to again encourage you to practice yourselves. Authentic leadership comes from having been down that same path. So I will often end the second session again focusing on the positive. They just had a pretty good experience working through something that could have been a source of conflict or was a source of conflict in the past. And so I just do a little teaching on positive thinking. So this is one of the verses that I refer to a lot. It's Philippians 4:8. It follows teaching on anxiety and with gratitude, turning problems over to the Lord. And this is a very positive instruction about what to think about. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And so we'll spend a few minutes in the session, and I may encourage, if I feel this will go well, I will ask, can you think of things to say about each other that are true, that are noble, that are right? And so I coach people into giving compliments, into expressing value that they have for the other person. And I do this in such a way that I try to not have to ask specific questions, but I will if I need to. So I'll say, anything come to mind? You know, I would say to the husband about the wife that you can address that have to do with these characteristics. Anything that you can with him. And then if I have to get specific, I will. And if I know them well enough, I'll point it out. But I'll keep pushing this until they get to a place where they're able to reflect on positive characteristics of the other. The higher distress a couple's experiencing, the harder it is for them to acknowledge positive characteristics for the other. But the point of this whole session is to move them into a team approach with problem solving, reinforce the value of staying in a team approach, and now focus on the kinds of thinking that'll make it easier to approach each other. And this is a true statement that I tell couples. Research shows that happy couples, when they're apart from each other, they think positive thoughts about each other. They don't reflect upon the conflicts, at least not much. They don't reflect upon the arguments, the hurt feelings. They tend to treasure these elements that we're seeing here about each other. And where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So this is a heart value. The treasure, we can put the value on it, allowing the emotions to follow, and it can create a genuine feel-good about each other as they work as a team and think positively about each other. So I will spend some time simply having them think through these terms: true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, about each other, encouraging them to think about those things between now and the next session. So we have gone through, and we've spent a good half hour with the brainstorm and my teaching here, and that's about the content that you have. You typically have 30 minutes. If you're doing a 45-minute session, you say hello, you review the homework for 10 minutes, you do the teaching, you do the exercise, and then you come back reinforcing the homework, and that's a 45-minute session when you really have this well practiced and you can move smoothly through it. It's a 90-minute session when you find that you need to take a little more time thinking it through yourself. You want to pace yourself a little more slowly, and you want to be sure you get a lot of conversation with the other person. And research shows that most therapists do these in 90-minute sessions. So when you're a beginner, maybe 2 hours. When you're intermediate, 90 minutes. And whenever I do a couple, I may plan 45, but I always leave a few minutes if I need to extend. And I've been doing this a long time, so I can be pretty efficient. So the homework is, I want you to do, I have 2 brainstorms here. If it's just a week, I'll say 1. But if it's a 2 or more week period of time, I'll say I want 2 brainstorms. And I want you to bring me the summary sheets of what you accepted as good ideas and your plan. So I give them some homework that's very specific. I want you to think positive thoughts daily, and this is less specific. So you might need to read that verse together, either on a daily basis or do something so this is in the forefront. You can put it in your phone. You can put it on your desktop so that up pops this verse, which causes you to think positive thoughts about your spouse. And then I remind them again, everything I teach you is homework for the rest of your life. So you don't forget about daily romance builders, continuing to do anger management through calling timeouts if you exceed a 5 or a 6, avoiding landmines at this point. We're not yet to work on that, and continuing to practice the 2- and 6-word prayers. So you can see the homework list just keeps getting bigger, and hopefully over time they become habits that we don't have to think so much about because we're automatically waking in the morning and praying for each other. We're automatically at the end of the day saying, okay, did I express love in a meaningful way for my spouse? We're just habitually calling time out. So all these things take, I tell people, 90 days of good hard work, and you will be developing new habits. So that takes us through the training. Does anyone have any, I'm going to leave this up for a second, any questions, comments you want to address my way? I don't see any in the chat, so I'm assuming we're doing okay. And if that's not true, you know, you always can email me either through Mirabella, who sends out the emails, or me. as things come to mind. I'm happy to answer questions. I really want you to be able to benefit from experiencing this. Oops, I did it again. Here we go. So the next training is, again, it's the third Thursday of the month. It'll be at noon Eastern Daylight Time, actually. We don't shift for a while. And it will be session 3. I have a typo. It'll be session 3 of 4-session marriage counseling. Oh, wait a minute, that's not a typo. I'm reading too fast. It'll be 4-session marriage counseling - communication, which is session 3. So I'll be teaching the Eve dialogue. We'll be talking about empathy. We'll be talking about personality types and how different personality types need to work in different ways to communicate well. So all that will be part of this teaching thing. So in preparation for that, if you happen to be viewing this with someone, I want you to plan on practicing a little bit, even during the session. I'm actually going to, I'll probably be looking for volunteers again, and it might be Marital and Florian, or if you'd like to volunteer, I will be needing demonstration of the Eve dialogue, and then I will be possibly suggesting a few minutes of practice, just so you get it, so you can really get it. For those of you who live in my vicinity, we're doing a gratitude gathering and open house on October 2nd in the Crossroads building. Special guest Mirabella Basile will be with us, who just did the volunteer work. She's flying in for a week of training here at Eden, and we want to do an event that includes her. We're going to review our outreach work in Romania, the partnerships that we have there, and talk about next year's plan, as well as we thank God for the 20th year anniversary of Eden, which occurred Tuesday. So we've been 20 years, and so we're going to clean our place up and have a little open house and have a gathering and eat some good food and share with gratitude what God has done for us in our relationships, collaborating together. So let me look to see if we have any more questions or comments. I don't see any. Thank you for joining us. Mirabella will put a survey out to you. We thank you for that. It really is useful to get a little feedback as to what seems useful, what not useful, what you'd like. It will shape these as we move forward. Looking ahead, my inclination, after doing the 4, which you can go look at YouTube at any time to review, refresh, or share with your staff, I think I'll do a session on another session on marriage disasters. We kind of looked at that before, but I think we'll look particularly at adultery. So my inclination is maybe do a session on adultery recovery, which has all of the elements that I'm teaching here, but a few different additional things that have to do with the knowledge of the recovery. And so that's what I'm inclined to do in January. We're going to skip December. So we'll do October, November, seeing through the 4-session model that I'm teaching. We'll skip December just because it's crazy around here. And then in January, we'll look at adultery in particular. And then I'm likely to shift topic off of marriage after that. We'll see. And so again, if you have something you'd like to hear about, I have experts in addiction. I have experts in coaching and positive psychology, experts in various types of therapies. If there's something you would like to hear about, we probably could get somebody to address it. So I thank you all for joining. You're welcome, as I see some thank yous, and thank you. And it's good to recognize Mirabel and Florian. I'm glad that you're finding this useful. So we will end our meeting with prayer. Okay, let me pray with you. So Father, we have a number of people involved in care for each other, care for family. Help us to be useful. Help us to learn and grow and to be in step with you. So we would speak what you would have us speak. We would respond as you would have us. And so I pray for health and safety for everyone who's been here today. Bring us back together again in a month, and help us to be mindful of the call you have on our lives and how you want us to be as we grow and develop. So we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all. God bless. Take care. Talk to you soon.